Okay, good day, eh? Welcome to C7 Hobbies, Episode 1. I'm Colossal Meltdown. My friends call me Colossal or CMD. Why Colossal? Well, with the name of Richard Wanker, so yeah, let's go with Colossal. Today I wanted to talk about how I got into the hobby of wargaming, specifically Warhammer 40K, why I dropped out, and after so many long years, 30 plus, how the fire was reignited that got me back into 40K. Growing up, I enjoyed crafts and built many models, mostly aircrafts. My start in wargaming came from a teacher who started an after-school club to play Napoleonics. It was smaller figurines, much smaller than the Warhammer figures. There was a lot of research where it had to be as close as possible to historical accuracy regarding groups, battalions, leaders, etc. Decided to build a French army and slowly painting and putting together my force. I had a bit of infantry, some cavalry, cannons, artillery. Back then, I only had access to testers and enamel paints. It was not ideal, but I got the job done back then. One had to create their own bases, and those were done with balsa wood. As I played as often as I could, and then tried to get others to join in and play as well, I was successful in getting a couple of members to make the investment, but we only played a handful of games. Slightly disappointed, but continued by myself, I researched and painted my French army. And then one day, someone showed up with a mini games workshop catalog. These were only a few pages, and we could spend days looking at these miniatures and talking about the different game types. The push was to get a few of us into Warhammer 40K. And then suddenly, someone showed up with a mother load, the real 40K catalog. This was 100 pages plus. We awed at so many models and various armies available. I mean, Space Marines. 34 pages of Marines. Blood Angels, Space Wolves, Ultramarines, and a page or two of Dark Angels. Chaos. 4 pages. Orcs. Wow, there were a lot of orcs. 23 pages of different orc models. Elder. 20 pages with the aspect warriors, harlequins, solitaires, guardians. And then we had the Imperial Guard, 14 pages. And at the end, there were the Tyranids, which also included Genstealers, about 5 pages. In the end, we had one of us that was all about Space Marines. They were leaning heavily into Space Wolves. Another dived headfirst into Orcs. I was on the fence though. I was torn between Chaos and Elder, but chose to give blood to the blood gods and went Chaos. So you may be wondering, why would I have selected Chaos and there are 4 pages in the catalog compared to the Elder's 20? Well, I also made the connection that I was able to purchase from the Warhammer Fantasy catalog and get the gods and demons. I had a copy of the Warhammer Fantasy catalog around, but was unable to locate it at the time of this recording. We all ordered the starter box set, 2nd edition. We started to get familiar with the gameplay. As you can see, my tokens are not even used, as I got my starter set last. There was a rule book, a generalized codex, a separate book for war gear. Due to our location in the Great White North and limited travel availability, I was unable to really get enough figures to play properly. There was no online communities, there were no YouTube videos. I mean, the internet, the World Wide Web, had just been introduced to the public. Most homes didn't even have internet. This was well before the dot-com bubble. Yes, we did have running water and plumbing. Don't be silly. My group frowned on proxies. You either had the figure or forget it. You could not substitute weapons. I mean, if the figure carried a flamer, well, that figure only played with a flamer. It was a very hardcore group. It was harder for myself, since at the time there was no Chaos Codex yet. I had very limited troops. With so much frustrations, I just ended up selling my Chaos. except for 3 figures: Tzanich, Thousand Sons, Slaanesh, Emperor's Children Marine, and a Mounted World Eater. I was able to procure the Elder Army box set, along with the Elder Codex and many extras, like the Avatar, each Phoenix Lord, excluding Mag and Ra. They were all in metal, except the Guardians. This was to be my Althway craft world. The Elder were always on my mind. Due to their beauty of figurines, the various aspect warriors, hawks were beautiful, banshees were so wicked, and scorpion looks so cool. Don't even get me started on the Phoenix Lord or the beauty of the Avatar. But by the time it was the tail end of our group, we went our separate ways, and I never got one game in with my Eldar. A couple years later, the group talked about the release of Gorka Morka, on how it was going to be the future of 40K. Granted, it was geared towards orcs as a kind of Mad Max style, as I was told, but I had very little interest, since I was fully invested in Elder and was not ready to try another. As the sun rose and set over the horizon many times, the seasons passed, and so did the years, and eventually the decades. My French army in Elder remained well packed as I crossed the Great White North. From my previous group, others sold their armies, but I retained mine. Why? I really could not say, but I did want to paint those figurines, as I had always daydreamed back in the day when we flipped through those catalogs so many years ago. I started other hobbies in the meantime, ended up having a train set, got into chess, pool, snooker. For a period, even got really good at darts. Life passed by as it does as one grows older, with different groups and hobbies. I got back into video games, and that kept me busy for many years. Then, one day, my youngest brother mentioned starting to get into Warhammer 40K. Though the embers were still there, it was not enough to ignite a flame. The years slowly passed as my younger brother would talk about his new passion of Warhammer and his armies. I would talk about the old days, the limited color of paints we were able to get, which was the Citadel paint sets at the time, if we could find them. Over time, he would show me his growing collection. He moved closer, so if interested, we could have a game. And then all of a sudden, the fire ignited, but it was small and weak. So I started to research the hobby again. To my surprise, there were more armies I had never even heard of. What are these Tau that you speak of? So many under the Adeptus. What are Aldari? Which, after reading and looking around, I learned that it was actually the new name for the Eldar. And then there were Drukhari, the Dark Elder. And then there was a new army called the Necrons, which were the Elders' true nemesis. What happened to the Orcs? And then there were more fleshed out Chaos with multiple groups. And then there were so many Space Marine chapters. Oh my goodness. I had to relearn the hobby, almost from scratch. I was just getting in as the 10th edition dropped. Unaware, I had purchased the 9th edition core rules. The game was not the same, obviously. I was completely lost. So much had changed in the realm of 40K. Then there were the changes in the hobby itself. What the heck was a wet palette? There were specific basing materials for creating bases? What madness was this? Don't even get me started on the advancement of paint technology. I had to start over. As I learned more, the fire slowly grew and my passion was ignited. I purchased the Aldari Combat Patrol. Now, I come to understand that I can now carry multiple craft worlds onto the table. Before, you could only bring one. So I decided to start a Sam Hand craft world. Now I had bikes. The upcoming videos are my chronicles, the many things I learned, what has drastically changed, my impressions on the hobby, the growth and tweaks to the lore, the community, figurines moving from metal to plastic, and so much more. There is so much. I hope you stick around and join me. Tell me how you got into the hobby in the comments below. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to not miss any future episodes. Please share your ideas, feedback, and comments. I'll read each and every one. Now go forth, be awesome, and paint for the paint gods.